Hi class, it's Miss Miller here, and I just wanted to give you some feedback about some of the work that you did this week as you get ready to prepare for your summative assessment, which takes place on Monday, and that's going to be you writing a 4-sentence précis. So I had a chance to look at some of your work today that you did with your partners on the assigned penny articles, and so I just wanted to give you some feedback. One of the things that I noticed, overall your sentence 1 looks great, but one thing I want to make sure that you omit completely, do not include in your précis are the words examples, or do not put in any quotes. This is the précis, so it's almost like it's almost like an introductory paragraph for an essay. So you would not include any examples, anything in quotes, none of that in your précis. So please avoid doing that. Even, I know some of you did that in sentence 2, where you're putting in quotes from the text. Do not do that when you go to write your précis. So that's one thing I want to talk to you about. One of the sentences that I noticed you had the most difficult time on is sentence 2, and perhaps we'll practice that tomorrow in class before we have our debate on the penny. But sentence 2 is really coming from your chunking, and that should have 4 sections. Some of you are dividing it up into 2 sentences. Some of you are making run-on sentences. You really have to be very clear about how you structure that sentence. I saw maybe 2 examples from you guys that actually were very strong, and then the rest of you seem to struggle with sentence number 2. So one of the first things you want to do when you get your text is to divide it into 4 sections. And then once you divide it into 4 sections, you need to decide on a verb to begin each section. You can take compares, criticizes, complains about, and whatever it is. You can say judges, insists that, explains, defines, distinguishes. Whatever your verb is, you must start with a verb when it comes to your chunking. And that exact verbiage that you use for your chunking, you're going to insert it in the spaces for your précis. The good thing is that you can use the template when you are doing your summative assessment on Monday. The other thing I should tell you about your chunking is your work needs to be parallel in structure. So essentially what that means is if you have your chunking that says, for the first chunk it says compares the use of pennies in 2013 to 2012, then you can't have in your next chunk defining, and notice that ends in ing, whereas the first one says compares. They all have to be consistent. Compares, defines, explains, distinguishes. Or if you choose to use ing to end each of your verbs, it could be complaining, exchanging, discussing. They all have to be the same in terms of how you begin that phrase of your sentence for sentence 2. The next item I wanted to talk to you about is that each of your verbs need to not only be parallel in structure, but each of your phrases, need to be very concise. Some of you are making it very wordy and lengthy, and it doesn't need to be that long. It can be just as simple as explains that there needs to be more time, comma, describes, next describes how it works. That is sufficient. Make it general, not too specific. You want to be specific in a subsequent paragraph. Maybe if you were asked to write a body paragraph, that's where you get really specific. That's where you get very detailed, but not here in the précis. General phrases. The phrases should not be lengthy. In fact, I would limit them to like 4 or 5 words the most. If you go beyond that, it's too much. Okay. In sentence 3, you seem to be struggling as well, because many of you are just saying, Weber's purpose is to explain. Walter's purpose is to persuade. And then you go right into in order to. That is not correct. You actually have to have a phrase, what it is that he's trying to persuade us. What are his intentions? That needs to come after the word persuade. So he persuades us to change the way we think. His purpose is to convince us to remove the pennies from our pockets. It has to have a phrase after that. You can't jump right into the word in order to. Now, sentence 4 looks good in terms of your choice of tone words, and I will most likely give you 3 or 4 choices, but I would highly recommend that you also include the word audience in there. So you have to say, he writes with an objective tone to an audience of, and then state who your audience is. So you have to have those key words in your précis. So when you go to do that, please make sure you include that. So how will I know that you actually watched this video? Please bring in your copy of the Pearl book to class tomorrow. That's how I'll know. Thank you.